How terrifying can a woman become when her heart is filled with envy and jealousy? Rest assured, you're about to witness her deeply toxic deeds right now. But first, fasten your seatbelt and stay alert because this case is not as simple as we might think. Seriously, watch the entire video and see for yourself. Omaha, the largest city in Nebraska, USA, was where Dave Krupa, a 35-year-old mechanic, moved in 2012 to work in an auto repair shop. He had recently amicably broken up with his long-term girlfriend, Amy Flora. Despite having 2 children, the agreement was that Dave would not be responsible for them. Thus, returning to single life, Dave started looking for casual relationships through online dating platforms. His dating process was going smoothly, focusing on traditional dating methods. The girls would text, then they'd meet for afternoon tea, take walks, and chat. If they felt compatible after a few dates, they would take the opportunity to connect more deeply. However, Dave had a principle. He would respect the woman's wishes if she wasn't willing to pursue the relationship and never coerce her. One day, Dave came across a photo on a dating website and immediately recognized it as Cari, who had visited his shop for car repairs a few days earlier. Cari was a programmer at a local company. Their meeting had made a lasting impression on Dave, almost like fate. He immediately contacted Cari to see if there was potential for further relations. Cari recognized Dave as well, but he wasn't her usual type. However, that didn't matter. During their conversation, Dave learned that Cari was a 37-year-old single mother with a 14-year-old son named Max. They shared common experiences and topics. So when Dave invited Cari out, she agreed. Their first date was at a restaurant on October 29th. Cari dressed elegantly and looked stunning and confident. Dave couldn't control himself. They enjoyed themselves immensely. At the end of the dinner, Dave asked Cari if she wanted to come over to his apartment for a cup of coffee. Surprisingly, Cari easily agreed. It turned out she also wanted a fun night rather than something too serious. They went to Dave's apartment and sat on the sofa chatting until late. When the moonlight shone through, the doorbell suddenly rang, interrupting the romantic atmosphere. Dave opened the door to find Liz, an ex-girlfriend. Liz's unexpected presence made Dave and Cari awkward, and the 2 women met. Cari quickly found an excuse to leave. After Liz left, Dave called Cari wanting to explain. Unexpectedly, Cari didn't mind and invited him to spend the night with her. Cari's openness made Dave feel like he had found a treasure. He rushed to Cari's house to spend the night. After an unforgettable night, they became closer. When Cari was busy with work, she would stay at Dave's house because her company in Omaha was an hour's drive away, not too close but not too far. Dave's apartment was conveniently located, facilitating their romantic relationship. They woke up like many loving couples. Cari watched Dave leave for work with longing. She said, "Tonight, I'll cook a nice meal for you." But Dave had no idea this was the beginning of a nightmare. During work, he suddenly received a message from Cari asking if he could move in with her. Dave found it odd since they had agreed to keep their relationship open. Why had she changed her mind so suddenly? Perhaps Dave didn't want to give up the myriad of other girls just for Cari. So, he politely declined. But this refusal made Cari explode. She replied immediately, "Okay, fine. It doesn't matter. I'm seeing someone else now. I don't want to see you again. Stay away from me." Dave was completely bewildered. From then on, these types of messages always puzzled Dave. Although he had only known Cari for 2 weeks, he always thought she was a liberal woman. Yet now she was acting like a lunatic, adding to Dave's confusion. Both understood that they had voluntarily started this relationship. Unexpectedly, it turned out this way. Initially, Dave thought it was just Cari's way of venting her anger. And if he waited patiently, everything would pass. However, as time went on, the revenge became more insane. Every day, Dave received about 50 to 60 messages and over 100 harassing emails. They contained many insults, curses, and horrific images. Even when Dave blocked these accounts, Cari would create new ones and continue sending messages. Dave changed his phone number several times, but mysteriously, Cari always knew his new number. 2 months later, Dave realized Cari's revenge wasn't just about spamming messages, but it went even further. He noticed a Ford Explorer near his apartment, and approaching it, he recognized the familiar license plate. It was Cari's car. Dave took a photo of the license plate and reported to the police that he was being stalked and harassed. The police checked the car but only found a fingerprint on a bottle in the car, which wasn't Cari's. Without clear evidence, the police couldn't do anything. One day, while working, Dave noticed many people looking around the auto repair shop. Approaching, he saw big letters on the wall. It said, "Dave is a bad man, a woman beater." Dave was shocked. He knew it was Cari's doing but didn't know what to do. Next, Dave received an email that made him even more scared. Feeling closely watched, he bought a gun for self-defense. Gradually, not only Dave but also those around him became threatened. For example, Heather, a high school friend. While they were chatting, Dave's mobile phone kept ringing with messages from Cari. It seemed Cari was not joking, she was really stalking Dave. Another victim was Liz, Dave's ex-girlfriend. She too was berated by Cari. And more shockingly, in an email to Dave, there was a photo showing Liz tied in the back seat of a car, her mouth sealed with duct tape. Clearly, it was Cari's threatening act. In August 2013, the police received an alarm that Liz's house had been set on fire. The police found at least 6 fire points and accelerants at the scene. Clearly, it was an arson attack. Fortunately, Liz and her 2 children were not in the house at the time. However, her 2 dogs, a cat, and a pet snake died in the fire. Dave quickly received a message from Cari. After the incident, Liz trembled and tearfully said, "She's always harassed me and threatened the kids. I just want her to go away." Sometimes Liz and Dave would walk together. Both of their mobile phones would simultaneously receive harassing messages from Cari. Dave felt extremely guilty. He didn't want to drag Liz into this. At the same time, he was moved by Liz's sincerity. Despite Cari's frenzied revenge, she was still willing to stand by him. Indeed, true colors show during hard times. The relationship between Dave and Liz grew closer. After the fire incident, the police's perspective on the case completely changed. They started an investigation and quickly discovered several suspicious elements. The suspect in the case, Cari, had vanished long ago. In fact, Cari's mother, Nancy, reported to the police that her daughter had disappeared. Nancy and Cari always had a good relationship. In Nancy's eyes, Cari was her pride. From childhood to adulthood, Cari was always an exceptional child. In the eyes of friends and teachers, she was an excellent student, especially proficient in math and computers. That's also why she later chose to become a programmer. When Cari became pregnant at 22, she decided to have the baby despite not knowing who the father was. After her son Max was born, Cari spent a lot of time with him. There was no doubt that she was a good, responsible mother. The police found it difficult to connect such an excellent mother, Cari, to a woman who crazily disrupted someone else's life like that. However, the police quickly found the reason. According to Nancy, Cari was diagnosed with bipolar disorder due to life pressures after giving birth to Max. Bipolar disorder, also known as manic depressive illness, is a mental disorder that causes shifts in mood, energy, and functioning. Emotional outbreaks can last a week or 2 and sometimes even longer. After being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, Cari continued her medication and treatment. She once told Nancy, "Mom, I feel numb and sometimes stop taking my medication." The police believed that if this was true, everything would be explained. After stopping the medication, people with bipolar disorder really can take extreme measures. However, Nancy didn't believe it. She insisted that her daughter had disappeared because they always kept in touch, calling each other every day. But after Cari said she got a big project and needed to stay in Omaha for a week, they haven't seen each other or had any calls. However, the strange thing was that Nancy still received messages from Cari. In the messages, Cari said she was doing well and had found a new job, moved to Kansas, and would come to pick up her son after a while. But Nancy clearly realized something was wrong because Cari was always very careful when sending messages, demanding no errors. But recent messages contained many spelling and grammar mistakes. Clearly, the sender wasn't Cari. Another oddity was Cari missing many important occasions like family weddings. She even failed to attend her father's funeral, her own birthday, Thanksgiving, and many other events. At that time, Cari left messages for Nancy online, apologizing for missing the funeral. Nancy immediately asked Cari to call her because she needed to hear her daughter's voice to ensure her safety. But the other party didn't call. At the same time, her son Max also contacted Cari online. Cari quickly asked how the boy had been living. Then, Max asked 3 simple questions. What is his full name? Who is his favorite boxer? And who was his best friend when he was young? This time, Cari did not respond. After Cari disappeared for 5 months, Nancy received a phone call from the police saying that Cari had been seen at a shelter for the homeless. However, no one at the shelter had ever seen Cari. One night, Nancy dreamed of her deceased husband telling her not to worry, Cari was with him. This seemed to imply that Cari had met with an accident. However, Nancy did not give up searching for her daughter. She posted missing person signs and continuously requested help from the police. The police turned to Dave, the last person to see Cari, for information. Dave was surprised and doubtful. Missing? How could that be? She always sent me messages and harassed me constantly. So if Cari was in trouble, who had been harassing me all this time? The police could not find Cari. In the absence of evidence, the case gradually faded into obscurity. In 2015, 3 years after Cari disappeared, detectives Ryan Avis and Jim Doughty reopened the case. The 2 officers, one fat and one thin, decided to split into 2 teams. One believed Cari was dead, the other believed Cari was still alive to search for clues from different perspectives. Ryan investigated Cari's bank account and found that it had been inactive since she disappeared. For an adult, this was unusual. Jim felt that even if Cari was depressed, it was not a reason to disappear. Cari had an excellent job, a spacious home, a smart son, and the messages online did not resemble what Cari would write. Jim quickly discovered a strange detail. Theoretically, Cari did not know Liz, and they had only met once at the front door. Oddly enough, Liz was always the focus of Cari's target, perhaps due to a psychological need to prove herself. Whenever Liz received harassing messages, she reported the information to the police and allowed them to check all her documents. Ryan and Jim contacted a data expert and checked Liz's mobile phone data, then made some astonishing discoveries. The first suspicion was a photo in Liz's phone of her car, the Ford Explorer. Original data showed that it was taken a month before the police discovered this car. Clearly, Liz knew about the car sooner than the police. The second suspicion was another photo, showing Liz tied up in the back seat of the car. This was the photo Cari sent in an email, claiming she had kidnapped Liz. Data showed that this photo was taken with Liz's mobile phone. The third suspicion was that Liz's phone contained 6 calls to Cari's address, all anonymized with the prefix *67. The fourth suspicion was a video uploaded online under the name Cari. It showed someone walking out of Dave's apartment. However, the IP address that uploaded the video was Liz's home. Ryan and Jim, the inspectors, visited Cari's mother, Nancy, again. She provided a crucial piece of evidence. After Cari disappeared, she received a message saying Cari had sold all her belongings and notified the buyer to move everything out of the house. As a receipt, Nancy received a photo of a check. On the photo was a signature. Nancy didn't know who the buyer was, but coincidentally, it was Liz's real name. These discoveries seem to imply that all this might have been orchestrated by Liz. The police recalled an overlooked clue, an unfamiliar fingerprint found on a bottle in Cari's car previously. Initially, there were no suspects, but after comparison, it truly belonged to Liz. All these clues so far pointed towards Liz. She was under a lot of suspicion. The police secretly informed Dave about the current findings. Dave found it hard to accept this because whenever he and Liz were together, they would both receive harassing messages from Cari at the same time. How could Liz be doing all of this? In April 2015, Liz voluntarily went to the police station, but not to confess. Instead, she claimed that Dave's ex-girlfriend was crazily harassing her. Ryan and Jim exchanged smiles. Despite their professional training, they couldn't help but laugh. This time, Liz reported that she had once imagined the person harassing her was Cari, but now she suspected it was Dave's long-term ex-girlfriend named Amy. Seizing the opportunity, Ryan asked to review the call history on Liz's phone. Liz agreed. Ryan handed the phone to a data analyst, and during the analysis, another incident occurred. Dave bought a gun for self-defense and lost it. Then, Liz continuously suggested that the gun had been stolen by Cari. On December 5, 2015, just 6 days after Dave reported his gun missing, Liz was shot in a park. Initially, Liz said that the attacker was behind her, and it was too dark to see clearly. But later, she changed her statement, claiming Amy was the one who shot her. Of course, she didn't know her statement was baseless in the eyes of the police. Later, the police also summoned Amy, who had clear evidence of her absence at the scene of the shooting. No one appeared at the scene. Clearly, this was fabricated by Liz. The police believed that Liz had reverted to old methods, posing as a victim to gain Dave's sympathy, attempting to bring him back into her life. But this time, Dave chose not to believe her anymore. The phone analysis results were also in. It turned out Liz used a scheduling app. It allowed her to send harassing messages at the right time even while beside Dave. Liz spent 40 to 50 hours a week drafting harassing messages. Over 3 years, she sent a total of 15,000 emails, 50,000 messages. It had almost become a full-time job. At this point, it was certain that Liz had impersonated Cari to harass Dave, but it was unclear if she had killed Cari. Therefore, Ryan and Jim thought of a way. 2 weeks after Liz was shot, Jim called her to the police station for questioning. But this time, the conversation wasn't about the shooting, but started with Cari's disappearance. Liz was very wary and insisted she didn't know Cari. In her statement, she implied that Amy was involved in this case. Jim didn't reveal the truth but asked her if she could help contact Amy to find out if Amy had harmed Cari. Liz happily agreed. As for her, it was like hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. She could not only clear her own suspicion but also get Amy imprisoned. So, she quickly forged an email to Amy, admitting that Amy stole the gun and shot Liz in the park. Jim pretended to be satisfied and suggested Liz to inquire more about Cari. In reality, Jim wanted to use this as a means to learn more about Liz's crimes and possibly help them find where Cari was. At some point, Liz seemed to realize this. She questioned why the police hadn't arrested Amy yet, making her worried. Jim explained that the police needed more details about the case, details that only the perpetrator would know, otherwise they couldn't charge anyone. Liz trusted once again. In the following hours, they continuously received many strange emails from Amy describing in detail how Cari was stabbed to death in her car. The police immediately checked Cari's Ford. This was the 3rd search on this car. The previous 2 had no results, but this time, police checked every detail on the car until they removed the fabric on the seat. Eventually, they found a red streak on the seat and after comparison, the serum on the red streak was Cari's. By this point, the police had evidence that Cari had been harmed. Next, the police formally summoned Liz. Although she tried to defend herself, it was unsuccessful. They searched Liz's house and found 2 special items: Cari's digital camera and DV recorder. The last video in it was Cari talking about her car breaking down. This might be the last video of Cari before she died. With these clues, Liz was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. And just before the trial, Dave provided the police with a tablet of his. On it, police discovered a memory card that Liz had used on her phone. The card had many deleted photos, but data recovery was not an issue for experts. About tens of thousands of deleted photos were on the card, including Liz's selfies, landscapes, and many other life images. The content seemed very ordinary, but there was one particular photo. The photo was pale red, with low identification. But after a closer look, it was a pair of legs of an elderly woman. Although rotted, one could still recognize a tattoo on the leg that read, "Mom." And Cari also had this tattoo on her leg. Although at this point everyone knew Liz was the murderer, prosecuting the case was difficult due to the lack of a murder weapon, corpse, crime scene, and witnesses. Just based on indirect evidence to convict was not easy. As predicted, during the trial in May 2017, Liz asserted that the evidence was insufficient to prove the crime. Therefore, she remains in the Nebraska Women's Educational Center and always asserts she is not the murderer. On November 9, 2018, the case was retried. In reviewing all correspondence from Liz, despite many inconsistencies, the storyline was the same. Cari was stabbed in her car, and her body was wrapped in a waterproof cloth, then burned and disposed of in a trash bin. The perpetrator then cleaned the car. Police searched information from 31 Google accounts, 9 Yahoo accounts, and 5 Microsoft accounts belonging to Liz. Although she attempted to fake IP addresses and used scheduling software to hide her identity, tracking IP addresses and devices confirmed that all were done by Liz. After killing Cari, she impersonated online that Cari was still alive and continuously harassed Dave and his girlfriend. To divert suspicion, she sent harassing messages to herself, even set her own house on fire, and shot herself. Faced with the accumulation of evidence, Liz was finally convicted and received a life sentence. Additionally, she was sentenced to 18 to 20 years in prison for arson. After the incident, Cari's son, Max, still holds hope. He left a message on his mother's social media account. "If it's really you, Mom, please come back to me. I want you to attend my graduation." Perhaps the boy does not yet know that his mother may no longer be able to appear in any significant moments of his life anymore. Although there's no information on Liz's motive for the crime, it's not hard to see that it was out of jealousy and envy. What I find most unexpected is that, somehow, women who should offer each other empathy and deep love instead chose to harm and kill each other over a man. And that's today's story. What do you think? Please leave a comment below. If you can, please like the video and subscribe to the channel to help us out. Thank you, goodbye and see you again.